The Pro is the most pro phone we've ever shipped. It's a totally new design, incredible performance, camera next level. I mean, if you think you've gotten good photos and videos off your iPhone before, this takes it to a new level. The Air, thin, light, feels like it's going to fly away in your hand. It's so wonderful. The design is unbelievable. You literally cannot feel it. It's so light. But it's a pro phone. This is what's so spectacular about it. It's pro performance in a thin package.
That was Tim Cook just a few minutes ago right here on Squawk Box. Joining us now, Gene Munster, Deepwater Asset Management Managing Partner. And you predicted years ago that Apple would be in our living rooms before the company launched Apple TV. And I guess you're going to be right on a lot of these things, Gene. This reminds me of Moore's Law almost. How small, how light can we get? How thin can we get? And more power every time? It's kind of amazing. Is there ever a wall that Apple's going to hit?
Well, they hit a wall competitively when Huawei comes out with phones and they got to compete in China. So, you know, the ball is always moving forward for everyone, and they've really struggled in China. If you look at the March quarter, it was down 11%. It was +4 in the June quarter, and so some of that wall they've been able to kind of ease. And I think, speaking of that wall, and that biggest wall being in China, is that the early feedback from China on these iPhone pre-orders is really strong. We track 8 countries globally in terms of the lead times, and it's averaging 2.3 weeks. A year ago, it was 1.8 weeks. So typically when you see extending lead times, that's positive for demand. But surprisingly, China, the lead times, where they're made, the lead times are about 4.5 weeks, and they don't even have the Air available right now. There's some compliance issues around an eSIM card that Apple's working through. And so I think if you put all of this together and think about kind of these design and the form factors and where this goes, is Apple's definitely taking a leap forward. Early indications are that this is going to be a good cycle, as it should be. And just want to put one more point on why this, I think, is going to be a great cycle. The last time they had a major hardware refresh was back when the iPhone 6 Plus came out, so call it 10 plus years ago. And at that point, the iPhone sales went from up, call it 15% to 56%. What that means is that new form factor that you're talking about, it does have an impact. And not only do they have the new Air, but I also would argue that the new Pro lines have more of an industrial feel. I think that's going to resonate as a new form factor too. So all indications are that this is going to be a good cycle.
And what about some of the other things? We love the earbuds, and I mean, is that additive to your positive opinion about Apple, or is it all based on the iPhone 17?
I mean, it comes down to the 17 and then the conversation about what's going on with AI, of course. They don't break out AirPods, but it's about 5% of revenue. It's been flattish more recently. So this new AirPods Pro 3, that's probably not going to effectively move the needle. You know, it has to, the center of the bullseye is on that iPhone business. And so, and ultimately, what's going to happen with AI? I think that's a big part of the conversation. And if I can quickly jump there, Joe, because I think it is relevant to investors, and they'll look at these iPhone numbers that are going to be better than expected. For the December quarter, I think 10% growth is reasonable. The Street's at 7%. Next year, the Street's at 5%. I think 7+% growth is reasonable. But this AI piece of the conversation is going to continue to nag the Apple investment case. I would argue that investors are way too concerned about this. And if you stick with me here, is that next March, they're going to come out with this new Siri. And let's take the case that it falls flat, that it's a total bomb. The company would be eviscerated, the stock would be down. But I don't think consumers would change any of their behavior, from the living room to the watch to the AirPods. None of that's going to change. There is no really powerful competitive AI consumer device. And so as long as that is the case, I think Apple's got a lot of time, multiple years potentially, to figure AI out. And I think that nuance often gets missed in some of this hyper scrutiny around what's Apple doing on AI.
I know people that use it, but the only time Siri comes up is like when I bump the phone the wrong way, and it just annoys me. I don't need her whatsoever.
Let me ask you this, Joe. She annoys you.
Totally.
But let's say that you start to hear that it's had a big improvement. Would you give it another shot, or would you say there's just too much?
It's been so long,
baggage?
I don't even know what to use. I don't even know what to use it for. Maybe I would. You use Siri, don't you, Andrew?
I do.
What's your biggest use case?
Transcription.
I do that. Oh no, that just drives me crazy. She comes up with things that were never said by anyone anywhere in the universe. When I'm saying really obvious things, and I know I mumble because people tell me that all the time on Twitter, but it's horrible right now, Gene. It's like, that's not even a word half the time. I just gave you the most obvious word if you have any AI at all, and you can't come up with it. So
I'm not debating that it's in a bad spot right now. I think it comes down to, is Apple a company of quality, and can they fix it?
Well, it's been a while. All right, Gene, we hope spring's eternal. Yep. We'll see you. Thank you.
Meantime, as we've been talking to Gene, you've been watching images of the Apple's flagship store in Manhattan opening its doors as the iPhone 17 and other products go on sale. And our man, Steve Kovac, is on the ground right there. He joins us now. Good morning.
Hey, Andrew. Yeah, we're watching Tim Cook, and that's his colleague, Deirdre O'Brien, next to him. She's the head of retail, welcoming those first customers in. Those are the people who pre-ordered and got their spot in line. I was talking to many of them, and I want to bounce on what Gene Munster was just saying. I talked to the first dozen or so people in line. They are all buying the Pro, not the Air. They're really into the Pro. That's a really good sign for Apple as far as demand at the higher end. There was a price increase on those higher end Pros this year, so that is good for the average selling price of the phone. And as Gene was also saying, the early demand signals in China and the United States are pretty strong. When I was here a year ago, it was the complete opposite. It was the Apple Intelligence launch along with this phone. There wasn't that much excitement about it, but it just goes to show when you have new designs and get back to cool hardware and back to the basics of what Apple's good at, you can really drive that demand. Now, we're having some issues over in China, as Gene alluded to. That Air still has some regulatory approval to go through. Also, we're looking at some more data that's going to come in over the weekend. We're going to be looking at the true sales data, the number of people standing in line, and get a much better gauge of demand. I'll also point out something really stuck out to me in that interview our Jim Cramer did with Tim Cook just a few minutes ago. He said those price increases have nothing to do with tariffs. That was a very interesting comment from him. I thought whether or not you think that's true or how much is true, the fact that they're still able to show up and get this kind of demand out there despite those price increases, despite the tariff hangover, despite being behind in AI, it just shows that making those cool new designs is enough to drive demand. And by the way, there's a Nikkei report that came out this week, guys, that really stuck out to me. They said this is just the beginning of an iPhone growth cycle. Apple, in fact, is expecting 10% growth in the iPhone next year. That's due to a foldable device. And then beyond that, believe it or not, in 2027, the iPhone turns 20 and a brand new design there, guys. I'll send it back over to you.
Steve, by the way, we're all watching as you're speaking. I mean, this is like watching, people get in line to meet Taylor Swift. I don't know if Tim Cook's ever been compared to Taylor Swift before, but it's sort of a remarkable thing to see a CEO just so beloved. I mean, he's signing, I don't know if you saw it before, he was actually signing the back of a phone just a moment ago.
Yeah, and taking selfies. There's this gentleman in line here, I'm totally blanking on his name, but I see him here every year. In fact, we just saw him on screen, wears an orange shirt. He is the quintessential Apple fanboy. He's not here because it's hard to get the phone. He wants that selfie with Tim Cook every year. He wants to be among the first people in line. So you're exactly right. And by the way, the crowd, the energy here is like 10 times what it was this time last year. I can barely hear myself speak. There's singing, there's dancing. It's actually pretty wild here. I haven't seen an iPhone launch like this in the last several years, guys.
Steve Kovac, thank you for joining us this morning. We're going to keep our eyes on all the action that's happening at that Fifth Avenue store, and I'm sure we'll be back to you later. Meantime, among today's top stories, a whole bunch of things taking place.